Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another dangerous discussion in bed with B. I'm your host, B, and tonight we're getting juicy. Tonight we're talking about playing house, hoe phases, homie hopping, and liberation. I had to laugh so many times when I thought about recording this episode because this was one of the episodes that I was avoiding, but also one of the ones that I was super geeked to do. So I was like, it just needs to be done. This was supposed to be a later episode. I decided, why not? This discussion needs to be had, and I have no shame about it at the same time. Before we get into the details, let's have our edge of the bed conversation. Let's consent to having a good, juicy, and light time. I hope you are wearing something cozy. I hope you have a J rolled for me. I hope you're drinking some tea. I hope you have some incense burning, some candles lit, whatever is your vibe. Get into it and let's pull the covers back. All right, y'all. So, we're going to start this episode off with playing house because I feel that we need to flow with playing house into hoe phase and homie hopping for me, which was the same thing, and going into liberation. And the liberation is really going to be for my girls. And I was recently having a conversation with one of my best friends, and I told her that I'm not a girl's girl. I definitely don't consider myself to be a girl's girl. And I'm not a guy's girl either. I really consider myself to be a person that if you're my people, I fuck with you because you're my people. And that's the type of person I am. Not everybody is my people. So, saying that to say that the liberation part is for the girls, and I think that a lot of women need to hear this because I know that I did, and there was a lot of shame about my whole phase and about my homie hopping until I talked to some women that, really put things into perspective for me. I'm sitting here with a better view of what my situation was. To kick it off, playing house. I think I played house a lot. A whole bunch in my relationships and in my partnership. And at the time, I didn't look at it as playing house because obviously I'm here for a ring, duh. And I actually deserved rings. I'm gonna just say that right now. I deserved rings because I did all the things that I was supposed to do, allegedly. And I didn't have a problem with playing house. I was here for the union. And so I didn't look at it as playing house at the time. I looked at it as I was taking care of my man, and our space that we had, that we were in, or his space, or whatever. And I just wanted to feel comfortable being where I was, knowing where things were, being able to cook for my man. I'm definitely one of the women that will, my man, you to death. Don't let me get wiped up because I will, my man, okay? I'm here for taking care of my man, taking care of our space, being able to cook for him. And I feel like once I learned how to cook, I leveled myself up. That was a whole different section of the bingo card, okay? I didn't know how to cook for a long ass time. And that didn't stop me from pulling men at the same time. I was definitely being chosen. When I learned how to cook, I was like, oh, price went up. The level up is so real because I have more skill sets. So I don't mind any of that. I've done some of the wildest things for my man, and I am not ashamed of them. I feel like that's what you're supposed to do in a partnership. On my side, it was always, if we're in this union together, we are in this union. We're in the thick of it. We're going through thick and thin. And also because it's good practice for marriage, right? Because I'm not saying I do to say I don't later on. Like, if we get married, baby, we getting married because I will not be a divorcee. I will be a widow. That's how I feel about it. I didn't mind taking care of my man or doing like the wifely duties without the ring because I always knew that the ring was coming. Okay. When it comes to playing house, I'm talking about doing the things that just make the space feel more chill, more at ease. I'm talking about cooking, I'm talking about cleaning, I'm talking about good conversation, I'm talking about making the stress of the day more easeful. Anticipating needs was a big one for me because I always felt like, especially in my partnership, I felt like I knew what my partner needed or wanted. And it was going to be done, with the exception of rolling backwoods or anything. To be honest, I smoke and I love smoking. I love the plant. I'm a marijuana girl. However, I cannot roll anything, and that is not my fault. I feel that I'm a very spoiled woman. I used to smoke with my cousins back in the day, and they never let me roll. So I would be smoking, but things would be already rolled for me. One of my cousins, I would pull up to his house. I would tell him that I wanted to smoke, and I would pull up to his house, and he would already have things rolled for me. And the same thing with my first relationship. I didn't have to learn how to roll anything. Now I don't feel the desire to learn. It's kind of like if I want to smoke, I'll pack a cone quickly. And I'm also really good at packing cones. But I admire the art of rolling as well. But that's the only thing that I feel like I couldn't do. Everything else I'm good on. And I didn't mind doing it for my man because I just felt like, of course, I want you to be more at ease. The more you are at ease, the more you are willing to do for me and for us at the end of the day. I was playing house, honestly, since I became an adult. I would be at my first boyfriend's house. I would be at his condo and he wouldn't even be there. And I would just be cooking and cleaning and house making and all those things because I used to want to be a housewife, and I'm not even opposed to being a housewife present day. It's just that now I've lived a little bit more life, and I know that I just need to have separate things on my own because I can't be in a situation where a man decides he wants to take something away from me. We're not doing those leverage power pulls. I've been in those situations, they're trash and never again. I would just be at his house preparing, washing clothes, all types of stuff, making it smell good, beautifying the place up. I was definitely here for adding different light fixtures and light settings because if you don't know, lighting makes or breaks a place, and it also helps with your mood. I bought my ex-partner some very expensive light bulbs, and he could change them to all different colors and settings and all the things. It made the mood of the space. We would have our energetic lights, and then we would have our wind down lights that were a little bit more moody and things like that, smoking lights. I think that those are essentials that women just have more of a knack to consider and think about. And those are things that I was happy to do. As far as running errands, I would do that as well. But going back to anticipating needs, I feel like you should know what your partner wants or what they are anticipating next. And in a way, the way that I learned to do that was super toxic with my ex-partner. It felt like a job. It felt like I was on edge, that he was like my boss or something. And if I didn't do something, I would be punished. And in several ways I was, but it was that type of feeling about it. And I didn't care for that too much. But going back to my first relationship, we're years in at this point, and we have been through so much stuff together. We had survived the whole high school craziness. We survived all types of stuff, abortion, dealing with different challenges very early on in our relationship. Up until a certain point, we came back from everything that was against us. And so I was tired of playing house without a ring. And I already mentioned the reason that I cheated on him, but it just played with my psyche a little bit because I think as women, when we are expecting something and when we are doing all the things that says, yes, give me a ring, why would I not have a ring at this point? For me, made a switch turn and made me feel like, okay, if you won't give me a ring, I can certainly get a ring elsewhere. And that led into the hoe phase. Let me preface this. I will say that my hoe phases in general, right? They are subjective. I feel that there are so many different standards to what is a hoe and what is not a hoe. I'm saying this with love. Like, I'm literally saying this with light. Like, we're keeping it light and airy. We're not bashing women or shooting women down. Just kind of like your little hoe phase. It's very subjective. I went into my hoe phase because the men around me were my ex-boyfriend, my ex-partner. They were used to feeling that I belonged to them, almost in a way of owning that they owned me and they were used to possessing me. And there was a long time where I didn't know the difference between me possessing myself and having ownership of myself and somebody else doing it. When I look back at those times and just thinking about myself in those times, it felt good for a man to be like, that's mine. She's mine. And now I think that my next partner will understand that I own and I belong to myself, and you just have the pleasure of sharing space and time with me. That's the difference. So I think that with the men who felt like they owned or possessed me, it was a hard pill to swallow when they realized that I could play the same games that they were playing, and I was good at it. Fucking good at it. With my ex-boyfriend, I've mentioned this already. He was just a cheater, left and right. It played with my mind because how could you be cheating and I'm at home doing all of the things that you want me to do? And it gets old. My whole phase back then, because I felt like I had phases, my whole phase came in waves. And the first wave of it was just talking to men, entertaining them. It was more so because, like, I wasn't getting the attention, respect, reverence, trust, loyalty, none of that I deserved. And I had given him literally everything that I could have gave him, I gave him. So I didn't understand why I would not be getting the goodness of the reciprocity. And that just kind of spiraled into the whole phase. I was talking to men and having conversation. And did they have sexual contents or undertones? Likely, yes. I was a huge flirt naturally. Like, I feel that I don't have to try to flirt, I just naturally do it. I think that is a superpower. When you are just a natural flirt, I think that you're very charismatic and magnetic, and people are just drawn to you and very enthralled by you. And I feel like that's how people treat me. I know how to turn it up a notch too. There is a natural aspect and air to it where it's just me and my zone. And then there is also a turned up version of it of when I'm trying to possess you at this point. And in most cases, damn near, if not all, I really was. That led to conflict, obviously, in our relationship because he felt like I was doing the same thing to him as he was doing to me, except I wasn't sleeping with anyone. And I didn't want to sleep with anyone. I didn't want him to sleep with anyone else, but the options were always there. And I think for me, with my first relationship, is that the door was always open. Like, I never closed the door because I didn't trust him enough to close the door. He didn't make me feel secure enough to close the door. I'm gonna do all of the playing house things, and at the same time, I see you and the door is open, just so you know. And then I had a level up in a wave of a whole phase, probably 2018. This is where the homie hopping happened. I had this conversation with a couple of my really good friends and just like a couple general conversations about homie hopping. If you don't know what that is, it is when you talk to two people in the same group or acquaintances of the same circle. It was brought to my attention a couple years ago that that was called homie hopping. And I've also talked to my guy friends about this. I was having a drink with one of my guy friends and he's known me since I was 14 years old. And so he's seen some of everything. We're catching up and I'm just running down how life has been for me. And then I tell him I went on 2 dates with my partner at the time, his best friend, when we weren't together. And he said, "You homie hopped?" I said, "Is that what that's called?" "Well, I guess so." And then we laughed about it. So I've had this conversation with enough people to just not feel any type of way about it. Like, it's not an unremorseful feel when I think about it, because I was apologetic for hurting my ex-partner. Absolutely. However, at the time, I didn't give a fuck, and neither did he. Neither did any party, honestly. My ex-partner at the time, we were not together, and he was not in my life for maybe like a year. He had been up until that point in and out of my life, and I was just so numb to it because I felt like this man loves me. He would randomly send me gifts, buy me things, and send me text messages just to stay around and on my mind enough so that I didn't forget about him. And I didn't forget about him. And then we had this trip, and his perception of how the trip went was completely different than mine. And then I didn't talk to him for 3 years after that. And then that's when we got together and when he found all of this out. During that time, it was a year after we were together last. And then I started talking to his best friend. I feel like now when I'm thinking about it, he was probably checking on me for his best friend. But the way that he was approaching it, he definitely was trying to see what was up. And I didn't mind it. At first, my spidey senses were tingling, and then it got to a point where I was like, well, this man is really not about to say anything. The loyalty is just not there. For a person that he grew up with, the loyalty is just not there. And so it's whatever. At the same time, my ex partner was not in my life. I just didn't feel like I owed him anything. Again, it was a situation where I had given so much of myself. All that I had to give, I gave to him. I felt like I had done my part. So I was not in debt to him. When I started dating his best friend, we didn't even live in the same city. And we just went on 2 dates together to a bar. Like, we drank both times. And then we went back to his place. And there was some kissing, some touching. But it wasn't anything sexual. Like, we did not have sex with each other. And we honestly should have had sex. And there was one time where I reached out to him to apologize. But the apology was really honestly to, like, see if I could still have sex with him. Me having sex with him, I just wanted to get it off my mind because I just wanted to see what it was like. Because we had so much tension, and it reminded me of the same tension that me and my ex-partner had before we had sex. We knew each other for 7 years and we didn't have sex. At the time that I was with my first boyfriend, I didn't want to sleep with two men at the same time. That was just my preference, and that was what it was. All of that shit went down the drain in 2018. There was tension. We never had sex, and I was just trying to see like what was up. He had children. He was like in and out with his baby mama. Just unsavory shit. Unsavory ghetto shit. I was caught up in the moment, and nothing ever materialized from it. He ended up having another baby, and then I ended up getting with my ex-partner. We had a gathering, and all of the friend group came to Dallas. And I think that he was pissed that me and his best friend were together, unbeknownst to him, because I had told him that, like, we used to just like fuck, like we weren't together. We used to just fuck. And he was like, no, like we were lovers. And I was like, were we? Because he's not told me. That pissed my ex-partner off, of course, because of how I was looking at it, but he was treating it like that. I didn't know any other way to look at it. My ex-partner was going to propose to me, and then the best friend told him that we dated. And then the proposal was off the table. And I was so devastated. Like, I remember, oh my God, like, I didn't think I was going to recover from that. I was just beyond words, so shamed and like just hurt, so super hurt. We ended up uncoupling. That was the man who I uncoupled with in 2023. That was the one situation of my homie hopping that was deeper than what it should have been. The second homie hopping in whole phase, all intertwined into one, is that I slept with two men from the same friend group that were acquaintances, and they were my cousin's friends. And I didn't feel any type of way because, one, the first guy, he had been in my life since I was 22. That was bound to happen. It should have happened earlier. it was a one time thing. And then the other one, it was more than one time. And he knew that I used to mess with the other guy prior to that. I had no remorse because I was literally living my very best life. I will definitely say I was having a time and having fun and having it my way, as all women should. I've been called everything. The reason that hoe phases and being called a hoe and all that stuff is so heavy for women is because we allow men to shame us. That's something that they're trying to tear us down with, but it's things that they do all the time. My whole phase really consisted of having conversations with men and sleeping with two men in the same calendar year, and homie happened. And when I tell women that, they're like, girl, bye. That's it. Because I've only slept with four men. Still, like in 2025, I've only with four men. I'm still at the top of every hit list because of the men who have wanted to sleep with me, who have not slept with me up until this point, they know shit's pristine. There is a reason why I'm at the point where I feel like if I want to have sex or fuck somebody, I'm going to do so because it's my prerogative and that's my liberation. But I think that is so subjective, and I have been called everything under the sun except the child of God. I remember when my ex-partner called me a thought on the way to drop me off to the airport. Do people still say thoughts anymore? But I was devastated. And I couldn't believe it. Not these words coming up, supposed to be my future husband's mouth. Like, oh my God. But then I just realized, oh, okay. So you can have certain standards, and I will give it to my ex-partner. My ex-partner was not out here hoeing around. I do give that to him. I don't think that he was a good human in a lot of different cases, but he wasn't out here hoeing around. He was having very interesting types of situations all around, but he wasn't hoeing around. And so I think that it hurt him the most that I had the potential and the capability and the capacity to do what I did to him. And on my end, why would I consider you if you've not considered me? Your consideration of me would be telling me and expressing your emotions and having the emotional intelligence to do so like a regular as human being. But that was not the case. And so it led me, all of the open-endedness for years and years and years, led me to doing whatever the fuck I wanted to do, having it my way, having a time. I don't regret it. I remember I was hiking with a friend and she was like, do you know why you did it? And I was like, of course I know why I did it. I wanted to hurt him. I wanted to hurt him and I wanted to make him feel like he made me feel for years and years and years. That's simple math. And at the time, I was super vengeful. I had no remorse. I was out here looking for blood, and his best friend was dummy enough to go for it. And I felt like for him to salvage the friendship with his homie over me spoke volumes, because it wasn't the first time that the best friend did that. And it was very interesting and very eye-opening. I talk about it more often now, and I'm more open about that because it doesn't plague me. It doesn't do anything to me because it was a piece of the story. It wasn't the whole thing. There was time I sat at a wall shaming myself. My God, the shaming and the guilt that I felt from living life, like living and experiencing life. There is no rules to this shit. There is no blueprint. You are just figuring it out as you go. And not everybody has the answers. I simply was just doing what I felt like was best for me at the time. When I tell people I've only had sex with four men, four partners in general, and they say four, that's it. After uncoupling with my ex-partner and thinking, oh my God, the next person that I have sex with is going to be a whole five. I'm going to have sex with a whole five fingers. And I have friends who laugh at that and be like, I can't even count. I can't even count how many men I've had sex with and how many situations that I've had. And I'm like, girl, yes, let your freak flag fly. That's the shit that I'm on. At this tender age, I'm not about to be out here loosey goosey, but at the same time, if I feel like I want to, I'm going to, and that's just going to be that with safety involved. We cannot be out here spreading any STDs or eyes or having babies that you don't want to have with these men who you don't want to have a baby with. Period. Point blank. And I feel that my whole phase and my homie hopping phase built character. Where ex-partner was trying to tell me that it was a character flaw. And it's not a character flaw. It is definitely living the life that I felt like I should have lived. And the exploration. I got into very serious situations early on in my 20s. And so I never explored life in that perspective. And that was the way that I did so. And it's not to say that I've not had a lot of sex because I've had a lot of sex. We're going to get into my sexcapade stories and all types of things within these later discussions, but I've had a lot of sex. It's just the amount of partners. I am down for whatever with my partner. I would much rather be in a wifed up situation than be loosey goosey. That's just me personally. But at the same time, I do feel there is liberation in experiencing life, and no one can tell you otherwise. Anyone that tries to shame you for your whole phases, your homie hopping, playing house, any of that shit. Anybody who tries to shame you for that, they haven't lived yet. And you can tell them that B said it. They haven't lived yet. And I really don't care how anyone reacts to this discussion. I had a conversation with my dad this morning and I was like, you may want to sit these next couple episodes out. He's already learning. My dad listens in, my parents all listen in. And Dad said, I'm learning so much that I didn't know. And I said, well, you know, I don't believe in censorship, and I don't. And it's a superpower for me to be able to just talk about things so freely and not let them plague me because I am just living. I'm living the life that I'm meant to live. I'm having a great time. I'm having a blast. And I just think that everyone should. I think that it should be a part of everyone's story. That's all I have this evening. I actually did this discussion with no notes and off the dome, except for the topics that I wanted to discuss, simply because I just have the stories in my mind of what I want to talk about. I wanted it to be like really raw. And I feel like the next couple discussions are going to be super raw because they're things that I'm very passionate about. I want to add some lightness to what people consider hoe phases and being a hoe, being called a hoe, all of those things. I feel that they're being used to just weaponize women. I'm not even saying that we should glorify it, but I'm also not saying that if this is something that you've been called, you should let it plague you because why would you? Then you are quite literally handing over your control and your power to someone else, and you are telling them how to narrate your story and who you should be and who you get to be. And I just don't believe in that. That's not a world or reality that I subscribe to. No, I'm showing you and telling you who the fuck I am. So you can either get prepared for it and you're going to rock with it and you're going to love just how raw I am and how me I am, how authentic I am. Or I'm not going to be your cup of tea. And if I'm not your cup of tea, that's all good because what's the meme? People say that I'm not their cup of tea, but I'm probably ayahuasca. So that's where we're at with it. On that note, let's go ahead and pull back the covers. I appreciate y'all for joining me tonight. I love y'all big. I'm having a blast. I can't wait for next Thursday when we get into more deep discussions. And speaking of deep discussion, Dallas, you can join me at the Irby, sponsored by Meteor Cafe, on the 5th of March for our first deep discussion experience. This is an intimate conversation when we're talking about navigating the dating world, being confidently single, and all the things in love. So I want to go deep with you. I want to talk everything love with you, and I'm excited to meet with you in person. I'll see you Thursday.